Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopichana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopichana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavirajagacharya Stota Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON founder, BBT founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavirajagacharya Stota Satashi Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadada, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath, Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Navadvip Marpur Dham Ki. Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Ki, Yamuna Mai Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Shamaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 19, King Prithu's 100 horse sacrifices, text number 10. Iti cha adokshaja ishasya preto tu parama udayam asuyan bhagavan indra pratigatam achikarat iti chadoksha jeshasya pretostu paramodayam asuyan bhagavan indra pratigatam achikarat iti chadoksha jeshasya pretostu paramodayam asuyan bhagavan indra pratigatam achikarat iti chadoksha jeshasya Ritostu Paramodayan Asuyan Bhagavan Indra Pratigatam Achekarat Iti Chadoksha Jeshasyam Ritostu Paramodayam Asuyan Bhagavan Indra Asuyan Bhagavan Chikara. Sorry, I read the wrong one. Iti Chadoksha Jeshasyam Ritostu Paramodayam Asuyan Bhagavan Indra Adhikatam Achikarat Iti Chadoksha Jeshasyam Ritostu Paramodayam Asuyan Bhagavan Indra Adhikatam Achikarat Iti Chadoksha Jeshasyam Ritostu Paramodayam Asuyan Bhagavan Indra Adhikatam Achikarat Iti thus Cha also Adokshaja Ishasya who accepted Adokshaja as his worshipable lord, Prithu of King Prithu, Tu then Parama the topmost, Udayam opulence, Asuyan being envious of, Bhagavan the most powerful, Indra the king of heaven, Pratigatam impediments, Achikarat made. Translation: King Prithu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Adokshaja. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence, however, could not be tolerated by the King of Heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, there are three significant purposes expressed in the words Adokshaja, Bhagavan Indraha, and Prithu. Maharaj Prithu is an incarnation of Vishnu, yet he is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Although an empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he is nonetheless a living entity. As such, he must be a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is an incarnation, he should not forget his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Kali Yuga, there are many self-made incarnations, rascals, who declare themselves to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Bhagavan Indra indicates that a living entity can even be as exalted and powerful as King Indra. For even King Indra is an ordinary living entity in the material world and possesses the four defects of the conditioned soul. King Indra is described herein as Bhagavan, which is generally used in reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this case, however, King Indra is addressed as Bhagavan because he has so much power in his hands. Despite his becoming Bhagavan, he is envious of the incarnation of God, Prithu Maharaj. The defects of material life are so strong that due to contamination, King Indra becomes envious of an incarnation of God. We should try to understand, therefore, how a conditioned soul becomes fallen. The opulence of King Prithu was not dependent on material conditions. As described in this verse, he was a great devotee of Adokshaja. The word Adokshaja indicates the personality of Godhead, who is beyond the expression of mind and words. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears before the devotee in his original form of eternal bliss and knowledge. The devotee is allowed to see the Supreme Lord face to face, although the Lord is beyond the expression of our senses and beyond our direct perception. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svam Padandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratam Tam Saguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padansaha Gana Lalita Shivisha Ganvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatriyubhesha Kripa Sindhubi Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for coming today. Let me read the translation again. King Prithu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Adokshaja. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence, however, could not be tolerated by the King of Heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence. So this chapter, so King Prithu, he's performing a sacrifice, and this sacrifice is meant for the welfare of all the people. And we know that King Prithu Maharaj is a Shakti Avesh avatar. He is a living entity, but he is empowered by the Lord to be an ideal king. So therefore he is performing sacrifices. But we see that King Indra is not very happy with this. But King Indra, he's addressed as Bhagavan. And we use this word, Bhagavan, to address Krishna. I mean, even in Bhagavad Gita, it's Bhagavan Uvacha. So it is used to describe Krishna because Krishna possesses all of the opulences in full. So because Indra has so much power, he is also addressed as Bhagavan. And he also represents the Supreme Lord. But someone as exalted as Indra even has envy towards Prithu Maharaj. So Prabhupada also talks about these imposter Bhagavans, and they are living entities and they have the 4 defects. He mentions the 4 defects in the purport, and they are imperfect senses, the propensity to cheat, we make mistakes, and we are prone to fall into illusion. So these are all 4 defects that no one in the material world can avoid. And that is why we are not God. So this chapter also talks about the importance of yajna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that yajna must be performed for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. Otherwise, we are just taking, and we actually become indebted. We take the air, we take water, we take sunlight, we take all of these things that come naturally. But we must do yajna to give back. So in Kali Yuga, we know that we don't have these massive yajnas, but our yajna is the Sankirtan yajna. We can just chant Hare Krishna, and this is also yajna. And it's also much easier, because if we read in Shastra about in the previous ages what they did for yajna, you need pure brahmanas, and you need all of many ingredients, and they must all be purified, so many things. So now at least we can just chant Hare Krishna, and Hare Krishna is such a beautiful thing that you can always chant it. There is no conditions for chanting it. You can, while you're busy walking to Prasadam, you can chant Hare Krishna, or when you're getting dressed in the morning, you can chant. So there's no conditions as to when or when you cannot chant. But with these yagyas, there were many conditions, of course. So by chanting Hare Krishna, we actually get more benefits than performing these big yagyas. But here, King Prithu is doing a horse sacrifice. And Indra is starting to get very jealous because he is feeling threatened. He's feeling insecure. He thinks that Prithu Maharaj is going to, if he does 100 horse sacrifices, he is going to take his position. So we also see in Prithu Maharaj's coronation, when he was inaugurated as king, everyone came to present him with gifts. And Lord Indra was one of them. So he went from presenting a gift to King Prithu Maharaj to becoming completely envious of him. And from this envy, he actually wants to impede his spiritual progress and impede the sacrifice, because he is insecure, thinking his position will be lost. But actually, in a way, envy can be seen as an indirect glorification, because you are seeing these good qualities in this person and you want them, or you are scared that they are going to take away your position. So you see them as a threat. So it's an indirect glorification, actually. So we now see in the material world, especially in Kali Yuga, people have this scarcity mentality. So this scarcity mentality, people start to fight over possessions, they fight over positions. There's always competition. So when there's competition, there's also envy. But in the spiritual world, everyone is happy and satisfied, and there's plenty of everything. So that's why we also don't see this envy. So when we see good in someone and we see, wow, this person is an amazing kirtaniya or an amazing cook or amazing book distributor, instead of wanting to impede their progress or try to bring them down, we actually should try to serve them instead of pulling them down. So because Indra is having this scarcity mentality and this envy, he wants to pull down Prithu Maharaj. But we also cannot blame Lord Indra. We cannot think that we are better than him, because he is in the material world, and this is the nature of the material world, this envy. So even Indra, who is such an exalted personality, becomes envious of an incarnation of God. So that's how we can see that this material contamination is so strong that even the King of Heaven can get affected. So what is to say about all of us? So we even see envy is everywhere, even when we have all good intentions to help someone. They might think, they might doubt you and be fearful of you. We can even see that on book distribution, or when we go doing Food for Life or Harinam. People always thinking, what is the agenda here? Why are you doing this? People don't understand that we are trying to do this selflessly. We are trying to do this to please the Lord and to help others. But people will doubt that and think, what is the hidden agenda about this? Are you trying to get money from us? So this envy and scarcity mentality is everywhere. And we are actually here in the material world because of envy. So we know that this world is full of envy. But we see that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the devotees, these pure devotees, are actually non-envious. That is one of the qualities, that we are non-envious. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Gaurhariya ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it states that the Bhagavatam is for people who are non-envious. So what does that mean? Are we not allowed to then read the Srimad Bhagavatam or talk about it because it's only for non-envious people? But we have Srila Prabhupada, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the Srimad Bhagavatam is now available for everyone. So we can take shelter of it because the Bhagavatam in this age is our medicine. Yes, so is chanting Hare Krishna, but we also need the philosophy to back it up, because why would we just believe that chanting Hare Krishna is going to save us? So that's why we also have the scripture to convince us even more. So there's so much for us to try and take to this process fully. But the more materially we are engaged and the more we forget about Srimad Bhagavatam or chanting or association with the devotees, the more prone we are to becoming contaminated by envy. So that's why we need to take shelter of all of these spiritual activities that Srila Prabhupada has made so easily available for us. So this envy in the material world is also due to that all the living entities have the propensity to want to enjoy and to want to lord it over everything. So because of this propensity, there's also envy, because we cannot all enjoy equally, or you want what someone else has. So no one is spared from this envy, not even Indra. And Indra even goes as far as to impede the sacrifices. But we can also see this pastime as a way to see the qualities of Prithu Maharaj. So later we see that Lord Brahma, he intervenes and he tries to talk to Prithu Maharaj to just leave the 100th horse sacrifice because it's causing more problems. And he doesn't actually go to Indra, he goes to Prithu Maharaj because he thinks maybe he will be a better choice to talk to first. And we see actually Prithu Maharaj, he's quite detached from it. He lets it go and he has no grudges. So this we can also try and learn from, because he already got the benefits of 100 sacrifices without having to do it. He did 99 and he still got the same benefit. He pleased the Supreme Lord. So these sacrifices, or the post that he has, is meant to serve people. But then when we think that our post or our position is more important than the people, then it becomes a problem. So Prithu Maharaj, serving the people and was more important than having the prestige of 100 horse sacrifices. But Indra got carried away, and he, instead of thinking of what his duty was, he thought of he was getting threatened by losing his position. So we see another word that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport and in the verse is adokshaja, which is a name for the Lord because he is beyond sense perception. He is beyond material sense perception. And we actually see the Lord being referred to as adokshaja throughout the Bhagavatam. We also see it in the prayers of Queen Kunti, who talks about the Lord being beyond the perception of the mind and the senses. So it sounds a bit strange then, because here we are told that the goal of Krishna consciousness and spiritual life is to develop love of God, Krishna prema. So here is this goal, but then the Lord is adokshaja. He's beyond the perception of the senses. So how are we supposed to develop love for someone we cannot perceive? We know that we need to have a tangible person in order to develop love. We need to see someone. We need to have a relationship with them. We need to be able to perceive them. So here we are trying to develop love for someone called adokshaja, who is beyond the senses. So we have adokshaja versus developing love for Krishna in an unmotivated and uninterrupted way. And we see that in the material world there's always a motivation for everything. And we also still have that mentality in spiritual life. It becomes nearly like a business or an exchange. If I do this, then God must do this for me. So we actually are still in this motivated devotional service. But we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 26, Savai pumsham paro dharmo yato bhaktiya dokshaja ahoitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving, devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So yes, again, the person who is beyond our senses, we must develop love for. But then we see in Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Devotion that love means to serve. And we cannot say that we love someone but not do anything. Love means to do something. So then it's also further explained that that's what bhakti means. Bhakti means to engage our senses in pleasing the proprietor of the senses. And then when our senses become purified from pride, illusion, envy, and so on, then we can actually perceive the Lord. So as spiritual life progresses, we actually start to see Krishna differently than what we used to. He's no longer just an idol or a statue there on the altar. Maybe we can try think of the first time that we saw Krishna in the temple versus how we see him now. Maybe in the beginning we saw him, we paid obeisances and then left. But now he's different because our senses have become purified. As the senses become purified, we develop emotions and devotion. We start to see Krishna as a person, and we start to have a personal relationship with him. And then maybe when we're away from Shri Shri Radharanath, we will start to think about him and miss him. So from the purification of the senses, we are developing that emotion and devotion, and we are starting to perceive the Lord. So Indra has a big problem in this chapter, and we know that it's not just Indra that has this problem. Actually, just having this material body indicates that we have a problem, because the reason why we have these bodies and why we are here is because of envy. And Krishna consciousness is the process to completely eradicate or clean ourselves from these dirty material qualities such as envy. And Krishna consciousness is a process of how to become non-envious and how to become well-wishers of everyone. And that is truly what Krishna consciousness is, to become those well-wishers. Because a devotee, he is meant to have no enemies, and he actually feels love for everyone because he loves the source of all existence, and he sees everything and everyone related to Krishna. So to be able to actually qualify ourselves to be in the service of the Lord and to reach his abode, we have to cleanse our heart from these things like envy. But again, not so easy. How do we do that? We don't want to fall into the same trap as Indra. So we try to look at the examples of the Mahajans, the path of the Mahajans. And Mahajan means to be non-envious. A Mahajan means to be completely free from envy. Then we also get the Mayavadis who try to completely stamp out envy because they say there's nothing to be envious of because you're God, I'm God, everyone is God. I was listening to a lecture by Shankar Shanprabhu, and he was talking about Jimi Hendrix. He had an album cover where he kind of superimposed his face on the body of Lord Vishnu. And I Googled it, and it was quite interesting. It was, Vishnu and all of his expansions and arms, and then Jimi Hendrix's face on it. And so this was in the 60s. So it was in the time when Prabhupada was with his disciples in America. And the devotees, they showed Prabhupada this, and they said, what do you think? And Prabhupada said he is inviting death very, very soon. And ironically enough, it wasn't long before he did pass away, and it was a terrible death actually, which we will not go into. But anyway, the point is that we want to become non-envious. And we hear all of these ways that we can become non-envious, and of course, one of the main ways that we can do that is do not commit offenses to the devotees. Don't do this, don't do that, don't commit offenses. But we can't always just hear what we shouldn't do. We actually learn from learning what to do in the positive way. Like Krishna consciousness should actually focus more on the positive than the negatives. Not about what we negate, but what we can add. So it's even like a child. If you tell a child, don't do this, don't do that, they're going to do it anyway. But if you give them something positive instead, then it's much better. So this is actually the simple formula of getting rid of bad qualities is by adding positive qualities, filling up the heart with good qualities until there's no more space for the bad ones. Kadambini Swami gives this example of filling a pond with stones until it's completely full. And then where there are small little cracks, we put smaller stones. So we are adding these positive qualities, and then in the small stones and the small cracks, we are refining them. So instead of being envious, we have to learn how to appreciate the devotees. And again, it sounds easier said than done, but this is something we have to actually just practice, is appreciating the devotees. So I even remembered when I spoke to my Guru Maharaj and said, sometimes my mind will just think of something very critical. Not that I say it, but it will just come up in my mind. And I said, how can I stop doing this? And he said to just immediately curb it with something positive. So then to think of something that you can appreciate about that person. And this is actually how Srila Prabhupada captured so many of his disciples, because he had genuine love and appreciation for his disciples. So they were so willing to just give him everything. So we need to also learn to do that, to appreciate every single person. Because envy, it's a very subtle thing, and it actually is the main obstruction in our relationships. But non-envious people, they push other people forward, not themselves. So that means they want other people to succeed, and they will try to get other people to become successful, not themselves. That is the true quality of being non-envious. So we actually know that we become what we meditate on. So if we are always focusing on people's faults, then our faults will increase. So instead, if we are appreciative and looking for all the good qualities of people, then it will rub on us. And everyone does have a good quality, even the most abominable demons. Because ultimately we all come from the spiritual world. We are all part and parcel of God. So everyone does have bhakti deep within them. Some people may be deeper than others, but it doesn't matter. It's like even when people drill the earth to find water, maybe somewhere there's nothing, but the deeper you go, you will find something. So we have to look for these qualities in people and appreciate them. And the benefit of this is that eventually those good qualities will become a part of us. So non-enviousness actually liberates us, whereas envy blocks us or impedes us. So Shankarjan Prabhu, he was talking about how he was quite envious of the devotees who got to spend a lot of time with Srila Prabhupada, and he never had that opportunity. And he would hear all of these stories about all these wonderful times people had with Prabhupada. And he felt envy, but he also knew that this was wrong. So he didn't know how to deal with it, because he knew that this feeling was wrong, but he didn't know how to control it. So he was quite torn, so he decided to ask Srila Prabhupada. And he told him the situation, and he asked, what can I do to get over this envy? And he was quite surprised with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't say, don't be envious. He said, it's spiritual envy. And spiritual envy means when you see someone as pleasing Krishna or the spiritual master very nicely. So you also want to try and please them so that they can also notice you. And he said that if you want to get the nectar, then you must try harder to please the spiritual master or Krishna. So there is this transcendental envy. But the difference is transcendental envy is not fault-finding, whereas material envy is. So there is a difference. So instead of pushing people away or pulling others down, that is mundane envy. So actually in Krishna consciousness, we want to try develop the mood of Srimati Radharani. Because Radharani, she's always wanting to serve the Vaishnavas. And Srila Prabhupada on one Radha Astami, he prayed to Radharani and he addressed her as Mother. He said, my dear Mother Radharani, please talk about me to Krishna. And Prabhupada explained that then Krishna will notice you. If Srimati Radharani talks about you to Krishna, then he will definitely notice you. Because Krishna is very big and unapproachable, so we can go to Radharani. She's easier to approach. So we please pray to Radharani that, and then Radharani, because she is so non-envious and she just sees everyone as such an amazing devotee, she will even say, Krishna, here is this devotee and they are better than me. And then Krishna will think, who is better than Radharani? Like, okay, who's this? So Radharani, in that way, she's pushing everyone else forward. She is the well-wisher of every single Vaishnava. She always sees everyone as less than her. And that is actually the perfection of non-enviousness. So, and then transcendental envy is also wanting to be recognized by Krishna, yes, but not pushing others down by doing that. So envy, we can see it's actually like a disease. If we let it go and we don't do anything about it, it can just grow and grow, and eventually we become completely maddened by this envy. And this envy is also what ultimately separates us from the spiritual world. And we can see how the world has gone mad. There's mass shootings, there's terrorism, there's so many horrible things that happen, and it's all because we are maddened by these qualities such as envy, pride, lust. But actually, by just trying to decrease this propensity of lording it over the material world, we can decrease our envy. And actually completely annihilating this propensity, we can get rid of envy. So in essence, we want to become the embodiment of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And that mercy is his non-enviousness. So we want to become embodiments of this non-enviousness, this quality that Srila Prabhupada had. And then we can be instruments in pushing forward this movement. But sometimes we see that it seems impossible to make any impact at all. Like me and Rukmini, we go to the universities, and so much effort and time is put into doing these programs at the university, but sometimes it seems like it's getting through to so little people. We see students, hundreds of students all the time, but so few are actually coming to the programs or taking it seriously, or just showing any interest at all, really. So sometimes it seems a bit impossible. But in Srila Prabhupada's times, they had such enthusiasm. They were convinced they were going to take over the world for Prabhupada. So in some way, we need to try revive that enthusiasm. And the scripture tells us that the scripture tells us about the great potency of this Krishna conscious movement. So all that we need to do is just try to see everything through the eyes of scripture. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it talks about that this movement is like a tidal wave of Krishna Prem, and it will inundate the entire world. And it doesn't matter whether you're pious or impious. I mean, a tidal wave does not discriminate where it crashes. It goes everywhere. So everyone will eventually get drowned by this Hare Krishna bliss. So we just need to stick tightly to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and eventually our bad qualities like lust, greed, envy will go away, and to try and have faith in this movement that Srila Prabhupada has given to us. So I'm going to stop there because I also just wanted to mention that it's Gopal Bhatta Goswami's disappearance day. And he was one of the Goswamis in Vrindavan, who is one of the authorities of devotional service. And the very famous Radharaman deity in Vrindavan, that is his deity. And it's a self-manifesting deity, and it's also just Krishna. There's no Radharani, there's no one else, it's just Krishna. And Radharaman is actually the original deity in Vrindavan, whereas the other Goswami deities are replicas. So the story of how Radharaman came to be. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he was bathing in Nepal in the famous Kali Gandaki river. And he had his water pot, and these Shaligam Shilas just kind of jumped into his pot, and he would take them out, and then they would just keep jumping back. So 3 times he would empty it out and they would come back. So there was 12 Shaligram Shilas. So he thought, okay, this is the Lord's mercy. So he brought them back to Vrindavan, and he would worship these Shaligam Shilas, and he would bring them everywhere he went. He would tie them in a cloth and bring them. And then one day there was this very wealthy man that came to Vrindavan, and he wanted to give as a gift these ornaments and these little ornaments and outfits and clothing for the Shaligram Shilas. But Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he was quite sad about this because he cannot use them on these Shaligram Shilas. They are round. It won't work. So he was quite sad about this, but this wealthy man, he was very insistent and said, please just take them. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he was remembering and thinking of Lord Nrsingadev, and he thought, if Lord Nrsingadev could just manifest himself from a pillar in Hiranyakashipu's palace, then why can Krishna not just come to me as well? So he prayed and he said, "O my Lord, you are very merciful and always fulfill the desires of your devotees. I wish to serve you in your form, having arms and legs and a blissful smiling face with lotus eyes." And he prayed if he had a deity, then he would be able to decorate him nicely with these clothes and these ornaments. So then he puts all of his Shaligram Shilas to rest, and then the next day he went to go to the Yamuna River, and he came back to do some arati for his deities, and he uncovered the basket where he kept them, and there were 11 Shaligram Shilas, and one of them had taken this beautiful 3-bending form of Krishna. And of course he was completely ecstatic about this and recited many prayers and hymns, and that's how the Radharaman deity came to be. And it was on the day of Sri Nrsinga Chaturdasi. So now every Nrsinga Chaturdasi in Radharaman temple, they offer 500 liters of milk and offer many sweets and different things. And the Radharaman temple actually has the highest standard of deity worship in Vrindavan. So we can see just by his pure desire of wanting to have the form of the Lord manifested himself. So it's quite beautiful. So yes, thank you everyone. I'll stop there if anyone would like to add anything or share any thoughts. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki.